name is Scott Livingood. I'm the Assistant Director of the Kelleher Center for Entrepreneurship, Growth, and Renewal. And on behalf of the center, we'd like to welcome you out here to another Entrepreneurship Live event. This is put on also by Tex Talks. And we're really excited to have Aaron Franklin here to impart his words of wisdom and give us some food for thought. Tough crowd. Yeah, okay. Two quick announcements. First, if you are interested in learning more about entrepreneurship and things, this will be broadcast as a podcast on an ongoing series by Tex Talks. And so you can check that out to catch up on prior events and to keep up with what we're doing going forward. Second, more logistical, if you park here in the center, for logistical reasons, if you can pay at the kiosk when you come out of the elevator before you get to your car, that'll make the exiting process a lot more smooth. So definitely try to keep that in mind as you come out of the elevator, pay at the kiosk, and then you can just drive right through instead of having to stop there and pay. So without further ado, I'll turn the time over to Rob and let you get on your way.
Thanks, Scott. So thanks again to our Kelleher Center. Without them and their support, we couldn't do awesome things like this and bring amazing speakers like Aaron. So we're really happy to have a quick note about the format. So we're going to talk for about 45 minutes. It's going to be a facilitated discussion by me with Aaron. And then we will actually open up for the last 15 minutes for Q&A from the audience. So I'll remind you of this when it gets a little bit closer, but you can step up to the mics at both sides at the front if you want to ask a question. So Aaron, thanks again for joining us.
Well, heck yeah, thanks for having me.
So
hello.
So I read something that was pretty interesting about how you got started, and I heard that the first brisket that you made you thought was terrible. So
I don't think I was the only one that thought that.
So what I'm curious about is take me back to when you started and talk a little bit about how you got started in barbecue.
So pretty much, gosh, I guess that was about 14 or 15 years ago. I'd gone to Academy and bought this little $99 offset cooker, no big deal. Just, my then girlfriend, now wife, had just gotten our first place together. I was like, hey, let's go buy a grill, woo! And, so I picked this thing up and called up my dad, I bought a brisket at H-E-B. It was like 99 cents a pound, super duper cheap. In hindsight, I probably should have bought that one. I could have got something nicer. Anyway, so I called up my dad and was like, hey, I got this brisket. What do I do with it? He's like, oh, I don't know. Well, that's weird. And I tell you why that's weird, because my family ran a barbecue joint when I was a kid. So I was like, well, thanks a lot. So anyway, I got on the old dial-up internet and asked this fella named Jeeves how to cook a brisket, and he didn't really have any answers. So I, from pretty much that point on, I was like, well, I'm just going to build a fire and see what happens. And I did. And turns out it was really fun. I had a great time, and it was kind of nostalgic. I spent a good part of my childhood kind of poking at the fire at my parents' barbecue place that was down in Bryan, Texas. It's no longer there. And they got wise and sold it real quick. So it was kind of fun. And then, so I cooked it. Next night, had some friends over, like any other good Texan would. And we ate the brisket, reheated it, of course. And it wasn't very good. Wasn't very good at all. But I was hooked.
So what then happened then? So you had one initial failure, I guess, and then...
Well, I wouldn't really call it a failure necessarily. The food itself was terrible, but I was kind of like, wow, I had so much fun. This was super neat because, just by default, I like to tinker with things. I like to build stuff. At that point I did carpentry. I built custom vans. I played rock and roll. I still do, sort of. So I like to do stuff with my hands anyway. So barbecue just and I enjoyed cooking already. So that was kind of everything lumped into one type of cuisine. And it was just so that kind of lit the fire, so to speak.
So then you just kept making briskets and kind of evolved.
So at that point, we started having these backyard barbecues because I spent a lot of time at the rock clubs playing the music. So, I'd be playing a show, so we'd be like, hey, next Sunday, third Sunday of this month, or whatever, start inviting people. So we kind of ended up doing these pretty sizable backyard barbecues. And that went on for probably, I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6 years or so. And, or less. My timeline's a little weird. So, we started having barbecues, and I got a better cooker, made 2 briskets, and made 3, and then see how many people we could feed and how much better I could get at it. And then it just kind of became sort of a mission at that point. It's like, man, we're gonna have like the most badass barbecues ever. Cool. And it just ended up being a lot of fun. And then by the end of it, I think a lot of people were kind of like, man, it'd be cool if you opened up a place. And of course, I have been thinking that the whole time. It's like, well, when we were doing our backyard barbecues, I was just kind of pretending and like kind of doing little dry runs of like, if this was a restaurant, how would this work? How would this work? And kind of piecing stuff together in my head. And, towards the end of that, we ended up having backyard barbecues. I think the last one was like 130 something people. And that was the first time that there was an actual line. And at that point, we just rented houses then, and we were actually like starting to rent houses with big enough backyards to actually facilitate a huge barbecue. And like, oh, this house is terrible. It's like, yeah, but it's all about the backyard. It's all about the backyard. But yeah, so the backyard barbecues were starting to get pretty cuckoo, and eventually we kind of just bought a trailer. My wife found a trailer on Craigslist for $300. And it lived in our backyard for a while I sort of worked on it. And then one night I was helping a friend replace a window in a place off of I-35 in an old Texaco station from the late 40s. And he was opening up a coffee roaster place there. And it's like, hey, man, you should fix up that trailer and park it back here. Sell some barbecue. I'm like, huh, all right, cool. And that was all it took. It was like a friend would be like, hey, just park it back there. Don't worry about rent until you start making money. Done. And I don't think I slept for 3 days. I was so excited. But, because I'd been piecing all this stuff together. It was like I had a warmer, I had the trailer, I had, it really kind of been, my wife likes to call it hoarding, but I like to call it stockpiling. But yeah, so it took about a year to build the trailer, did it in our backyard, and we opened up a barbecue joint at a 3421 North I-35. Behind a chain link fence with razor wire, with no sign, between Dreamers and Chicas Bonitas. So it was a real family place. I'm glad he didn't charge rent. Actually, we paid rent, but
So my next question was going to be, was that scary for you to go out on your own? But it sounds like that was something that you really relished. So was that something from when you were younger, or even when you were doing the whole rocker thing, that you eventually saw yourself starting a business? Or was this just something that just was an opportunity that you turned into it?
I've looked back a whole bunch and tried to think about it. I was like, man, how did we get here? Like, as much as you kind of want to be like, oh, we did this thing and we got lucky and then this happened and then we were here and then this happened and cool, that's neat. But, really, I think I kind of didn't ever think about it, but I always knew that we were going to do something. I just didn't know what. I was like, man, things are going to be fine. We'll open up something one day. And I also grew up in two family businesses. So it's, my grandparents owned a record store that turned into a guitar shop later, and then my parents had a restaurant. So I don't know, it just seemed like a pretty organic path.
And so it's interesting because one of the most important decisions that it seems like you've made is kind of keeping that one location then once you moved into brick and mortar. Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about that. Is there a power of exclusivity that you're going after, or is it just a supply and demand thing? Why is the one
there are a few factors. So first off, I don't ever want to feel like a sellout. I'm going to be like, oh man, we sold this thing to Applebee's. And maybe if they offer to buy it, actually, I think they're not doing so good these days. Applebee's is not the path. But I've been saying that for a while, but it just dawned on me. I was like, not Applebee's, actually. So maybe Chili's. No, I wouldn't, it would really hurt our hearts if, we were at the grocery store one day and be like, yeah, it's that Franklin guy. That place used to be cool. Jerk. Like, no, that's not cool. We've worked so hard for this thing, and we opened up a trailer for less than $12,000, cash flowed it over the course of like a couple years. The day we opened the trailer, I had 28 cents in the bank. And then we were in the trailer for 1 year, almost to the day before we signed a lease on the building, and then it took 3 months to do the remodel on the building. And I was the contractor. I am currently the contractor for this current rebuild too. But then we opened up that restaurant for less than $12,000. So like we had a lot of elbow grease in that place. Like, we built the cookers, I customized the warmers. I've even made butcher blocks by hand. Like I'm a pretty hardcore do-it-yourselfer, as is Stacy, my wife. And so yeah, that has a lot to do with it. It's like, kind of goes back to, playing music. It's like, man, I don't want to like be on this huge major label. Like I'd rather be on this other little label and do what we want to do. So yeah, I mean, if we don't sell out and we don't, have partners and it's just Stacy and I that own the place, we only have the one location. It's our decision. We can do whatever we want. We could shut it down tomorrow if we want. Oh, it's already closed right now. Darn. But we could not reopen. We can do anything we want. Nobody can really tell us like, ooh, I think that sauce is a bad idea. Like, whatever, it's our place.
To that, and I think also the same stuff with you kind of building up the location. How much of that played into trial and error and just kind of trying different things, both with your food and learning how to put in that swag?
The food has been pretty much the same since we opened. I haven't changed the brisket recipe at all. All the side recipes are the same. The sauce recipes, yeah, I guess we've kind of tweaked some stuff here and there, but it's pretty much exactly the way it was the first day I opened, except for the pork ribs. It took me about 6 months to figure those out. But they've been the same forever too. But yeah, we built the building. It's interesting because it has changed a lot, and it has been a lot of trial and error, but it's also because we opened up so cheaply that I couldn't afford real plywood for the shelves, so I used particle board. It's like, well, this will last a year, and then we'll go back and fix it when we can. So I've been backtracking a lot, going and fixing other stuff, but also we've gotten so much busier. When we opened up the trailer, I was cooking 2 briskets a day during the week, and then 3 briskets on Saturday and Sunday. And that was pretty much, if one of them sucked, I still had 2 or 1 that was hopefully pretty good. Like it kind of increased my chances for a successful cook. And now we do 120 a day. So just to show how much busier we are now than when we were then, when we opened up the trailer, I did a little spreadsheet. I was telling a buddy of mine, which is now the general manager of the restaurant, it's like, well, if I feed 15 people a day, I think this thing will stay afloat. Only 15. But it was also designed for one person to operate it, and then Stacy helped on the weekends because she kept her job to pay the bills. But yeah, so it's gotten so much busier that the trial and error part is like, oh man, now we have to cook this much food. Ooh, we need another cooker. Oh, we got to find a place for this. Ooh, we need another walk-in cooler. We need this, we need that. Even now I'm still changing stuff. I'm like relocating an ice machine today and, doing a bunch of electrical work at the restaurant. So it's constantly evolving.
So, you started from the trailer and then you made that move to brick and mortar. Would you ever bring back a trailer version, or would you just kind of keep,
No, and that kind of also goes into why we wouldn't expand also. So one of the problems with the expansion and adding a trailer, we do have a to-go trailer behind the restaurant, and that's for the pre-order stuff. It'll open again soon too. But if we did more, go to ACL and do food or whatever, the problem is there's not enough food. Like I'm buying 45,000 pounds of brisket a month, and I'm buying 100% of the European spec all natural. I'm buying 91% of prime all natural. So yeah, there's not enough cows to be had.
So how does that work?
Of what we cook. There's plenty of commodity meat out there, but the stuff that we cook, there are only so many cows. So.
And so how do you guys compete with the other barbecue places? Obviously it's huge in Texas and other places. How do you compete with them on that?
I've got some pretty sweet deals for meat stuff.
There you go.
I'm the only guy, really, like for the EU stuff that we use. So we use all prime, Angus brisket. They don't have growth hormones or any of that stuff. They may or may not have antibiotics. Everybody gets sick. It's not that big of a deal. But the growth hormones, I'm really against that stuff. But I'm buying so much of it and I've got so many allotted, okay, there are only 2 people in the country that are using the briskets that we use. And one person's got a pretty small share and I've got a huge share of these things. So, I went to Sweden 2 summers ago, I guess, and I had asked the guys to order the briskets that I use. I went and taught some classes, and the guy comes back and he goes, through all these people and stuff. He's like, man, we can't get them. We can't get the European. This is in Sweden. We can't get the European briskets. Some guy in Texas, they're telling me, has dibs on all that brisket, and it's a lot. It's like, several thousand a month, that are spoken for. But I was like, yeah, that's me. It's okay. You can let 2 cases go out. But that's, I mean, but it's taken 8 years to get to that point.
And what was it that got you there? Was it reputation? Was it you just knew the right people, or what was it?
I think it started off with me. So when we opened up the trailer, I just bought the best meat that we could afford, which was one Angus brisket a day at Restaurant Depot, nothing too special. And then probably about a month into the trailer, when we could make enough money and actually were selling some stuff, then I switched to Myers All Natural. And because that was doing all natural stuff was pretty big priority. Did that, and then when we moved into the building, they couldn't supply enough, so then I found these other guys, and that they could, and they were really nice. We kind of hung out, so we've just been loyal to each other pretty much, and and then I guess the reputation kind of started to pick up after I was using it. So we've kind of built it up together, I guess.
And so that kind of actually is a really good transition to what I wanted to talk about next. So differentiation in the restaurant industry, where a lot of people maybe see that as somewhat of a commodity. And in Texas, the biggest thing that, since I've been here, it's, if you can survive for 6 months, you're probably a pretty good barbecue place. But is it just the meat, or what else do you think has allowed you to stand out amongst?
Well, so we need to look and see what the scene was like when we opened. Did anybody live here 8 years ago? Yeah. So you remember, there wasn't a lot of barbecue around. There were only 3 places in town that I remember that used real fires. One of them was the Pit on Burnett. They still do. Ruby's and Sam's. Salt Lick uses ovens. And actually, I guess the place on 12th, whatchamacallit, whatever that place is. So 4 guys in town that are using real fires. So that, and there wasn't like a scene for barbecue 8 years ago. You're like, oh, let's go to Pokey Joe's and get this. And Pokey Joe's is great and stuff, but that was kind of like the standard thing. Like this kind of 80s, like East Texas-y, kind of just like scrape the bark off, no fat on it, really thinly sliced, probably not very tender, but put it on a bun and dump a bunch of sauce on it, and it's pretty good. So that's kind of what we were up against when we opened. And at that point, you had to drive 45 minutes in any direction to go get pretty darn good barbecue, or just pretty good barbecue. You had to go to Luling, you had to go to Lockhart, you had to go to Taylor. Snow's wasn't open yet, I don't think. And so you had to go to like the old school, like German Czech places. So that was pretty much our only thing when we opened. So there really wasn't any competition. And I guess we just got lucky by doing it pretty good.
So do you take anything from those first brisket recipes from anywhere else that you've been, or was it just you kind of...
No, I just did half salt and half pepper, and I was like, well, this seems like a good starting point. And it's actually still what we do.
Yeah.
Except we add a little bit of pepper towards the bottom of the shaker. Ooh.
Is that the secret? Is that the secret? So should people not be taking notes right now?
The salt's heavier, so, eventually you just got to add some.
Is that the European salt?
No. No, just straight Morton's kosher salt.
Gotcha. And we've also got a lot of people, so a couple people specifically in my class that are looking to break into the food and beverage industry. Any advice for some of those entrepreneurs out there that are looking to...
Besides don't do it?
Besides don't do it.
I think, so if you look around, like how many people are opening up restaurants? I mean, a gazillion restaurants opened every year. I don't even know what the running number is for Austin this year so far, but it's pretty nuts. I mean, there's like, people are opening restaurants just to open restaurants. And you go in there like, oh, well, that bar's pretty, or these fixtures are nice, or this floor's nice. But the food is probably not super great. It's probably pretty good. A lot of these places, they have, a cocktail menu that's pretty great. But the things that are lacking are high quality ingredients and just like passionate food. Like, there are very few restaurants in town that I can go to every single time and they just completely blow me away. Like less than 5. That's pretty sad. And so if you're going to open a place, don't skimp on, the quality of the food. Don't be like, oh man, this place looks great, we're busy. Because it's not so much about the bar. It's not so much about that, whoever, the host is. It's not so much about, what kind of flashy, light fixtures you've got. It's really about the food. I mean, our place is a dump, but the food's pretty good. I built it. It's got a dumpy. But, you go to Uchiko, and the food is amazing every single time. Like, the guest experience is perfect every single time. They're nice, they're knowledgeable, they're hospitable. The food, the drinks are good. Yeah, sure, it's expensive, but it's worth it. I bet, you could go there and dump $400 and leave and be like, man, do we have time to do that again? It's that good. Same thing with like Emmer and Rye. Hopefully the same thing with our place. So I think that's the thing about, like, if you're going to open up a restaurant, you got to really know what you're getting into. You know, you're going to work, if you're doing it right, you're probably going to work at least 100 hours a week. You're probably not going to get paid very good. You may or may not be the guy that's cooking. You may or may not be the general manager. You may or may not be the bartender. But you got to know how to do all that stuff. Like, you can't just be like, oh, man, we're hiring this guy. We've got this consultant. That stuff doesn't jive. Like, you got to know it. And you got to really be good at it.
So was there ever a moment that when you were in there trying to build brick and mortar, or any point in this kind of run that you've had, which has been pretty amazing, like just kind of going right to the top, that you've ever been like, maybe this isn't worth it? Or has it just always been like, yeah, this is 100% what I want to do, and then I'll just do rock and roll inside?
I think it's totally worth it because we built it, and we built it because we were so passionate about it. We're so into it. Me specifically, super duper into it. Maybe I'm not as into it as I was because it's not exciting. I'm not like creating new things, it's kind of, now we're just maintaining, and now I'm just moving ice machines and, buying new walk-in coolers and stuff. But yeah, it's totally worth it. I mean, I don't know what else I would do. It'd be pretty weird to wake up and not go there in the morning.
Yeah. That also, so you're kind of talking about that. So obviously with what happened with the fire in the smokehouse, now this kind of gives you a unique opportunity that a lot of entrepreneurs maybe have at an early point, but not when they've experienced significant success. So
yeah,
rethinking your business.
Rethinking the business, and I think that's probably the number one reason why I wasn't super bummed when we had a fire. Like, I kind of woke up that Saturday morning, got a call at 5:30, so I was like, oh man, day is the day. We'd actually gotten back from vacation at 9:30 p.m. the night before. Our flights barely made it in. And next morning, big eraser, just that vacation never really happened. I don't even know what we did, actually. I have no idea. But yeah, so I kind of thought about it. I was like, well, everybody's like, oh my God, this is terrible. It's the worst thing ever. It's like, hey, it's not that big of a deal. There are a lot of aspects to like why we shouldn't be bummed out about the fire. And one of them is what you're talking about. The first thing is that roof leaked. So now we can fix one that, build a better roof. We need a new walk-in cooler. It was the weekend of Harvey, so we're pretty small potatoes on the grand scale of things. There's a lot of terrible stuff in this world right now. And our little restaurant catching on fire. Who cares? It's just a building. Nobody got hurt, Also, we cook with fire in a small room. And it's kind of bound to happen eventually. It was a wood-framed building. I was kind of prepared for something bad to happen one day. So it wasn't a big shock when the phone rang. But the cool thing, and I think the most positive aspect of the fire and being shut down for a few months is the fact that we do get to rethink it. Like, we're totally been given like a rare opportunity because, like you're saying, you get so busy. It's like, well, how do you change this? How do you stop? How do you do maintenance? We cook 24 hours. I mean, it never stops. It's always time to make the donuts. So being shut down a little bit, has given me a little bit of time to actually spend time with the family. We're like, okay, this is great. Like, I don't have to work, 18 hours a day, and I'm not going back. They can't make me go back. They don't even need me anyway. Everybody else, I don't even cook anymore. They totally don't need me. But the best thing about it is that we get to kind of restructure some stuff, and where kind of the biggest hurdle for Franklin Barbecue has always been that everybody thinks it's one guy that started this place. Everybody thinks it's one guy that runs it. Like, I'll walk outside and be like, oh man, shouldn't you be cooking right now? Who's cooking all the food? And I know they're kidding, but it's like, really, man? Like, no. It takes a lot more than one guy to cook, 120 briskets, 72 racks of ribs, 30 pork butts, 25 turkey breasts, 150 pounds of sausage, serve 700 people, and cook 24 hours. So it's cool that now we can finally, kind of get through that. So, like, officially, I'm not the only guy that works there, for the record. But the fact that it started off as a one-man show with my wife paying the bills and stuff, like, nobody's really understands that, like, she is about 50% of this. Like, she pays the bills. She helped do everything. I mean, all that stuff. So now, instead of like a restaurant that's evolved out of a trailer, that evolved out of some guy's backyard, it's actually a restaurant that's built by everyone. So everybody that works at the restaurant, there's about 34 people on payroll, give or take 34. everybody's getting paid, so everybody still comes in and they're hanging out, and they're painting stuff, and we're cleaning stuff out, and we're moving this, and there's 4 guys out at the welding shop. There's 3 people at the office, so now it's like everybody's got a part of building this new restaurant. Everybody, it's not Franklin Barbecue anymore. It's like everybody's barbecue, and I think that's just about the coolest thing ever.
So when you, kind of from where you started off, when it was just you, how did you go about building that team and like the people you trust to keep that product to be excellent?
Well, it started off really small. I mean, 8 years ago, we hired one guy, hired another guy, and then just kind of, you sort of figure it out. We really don't hire people based on skill, although it's nice if they know how to do stuff. But we really hire more based on work ethic. If I think they're going to fit in, are they going to be part of the family? I don't want to say team because that sounds like, hospitaliano. But, are they going to fit into our family? I mean, we spend a lot of time together. We cook 24 hours a day. There are people getting there at midnight. There are people leaving at 4 in the morning. People get tired, and they've got to really lock in. They really got to care for each other. And they got to be there to help each other out a lot. So it's more than just like a job where you show up. So I try to hire people that I think are going to fit in, with a little bit of skill. Like, are you good with your hands? Do you have common sense? Do you like to work on cars? Do you like to build things? Did you go to culinary school? If you did, you're probably not going to get a job at our place. Because, I don't want to take on somebody else's bad habits. And it takes about 3 years to really train somebody to cook, where they really, really start getting pretty darn good at it. So yeah, I mean, it's based way more on personality. And just kind of, if we think they're going to stick around for a while, it's like, can you give me 3 years? All right, cool.
So last serious one before we get to some lighter, fun questions. So I know you did a lot of stuff with Hurricane Harvey, you kind of mentioned it. Talk a little bit about some of the relief efforts that you helped out with there.
So we did two benefits on 2 Sundays at the Mohawk downtown on 10th and Red River. And we just wanted to make some food and raise some money. I'm still waiting on all the invoices to come back to figure out exactly how much money we made. But I think we did pretty good.
Is that an important part of what you guys do at Franklin's?
Totally. Yeah, we're into giving money.
You make a good bit too, so that's good.
Yeah, it's okay. Share a little.
All right, so this is one that I've been dying to ask. As soon as I got
my favorite color's green.
Yes, that was the other thing I've been dying to ask. So I moved down here about a year ago, and pretty much the first time I moved down here, I heard this story about, no one skips the line at Franklin's. No one skips the line at Franklin's. I heard a story that Kanye got denied skipping the line. Is that true or false?
So that was in the New York Times, and maybe got a little blown out of proportion. I never saw Kanye. Man, I know there's a Kanye pun in there. Kanye, tell me? I don't know. I don't even know what the guy looks like, so I don't really know.
Don't watch too much Keeping Up with the Kardashians?
Totally not watching that show. But, so really what did happen is I was standing in the kitchen one morning, it's about 10:30, 10:45, we're just about to open up for lunch, drinking an espresso, pinky's out, having a spro, and 2 people walked in the kitchen door, wearing sunglasses and they're dressed real nice and stuff. I was like, who are you? What? What's going on? Like, oh, we need the special table. I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. They're like, no, we're VIPs. I'm like, oh, okay. You're like, we're with Kanye. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, and that was before we had the smokehouse. So this is probably the slickest move I've ever had. I'm going to tell my kid this one day, and she's going to think I'm a moron. So I opened up the kitchen door. I was like, oh, yeah, I'll show you where the VIPs are. Kind of guide them outside. And there was a line pretty far down. It was about halfway in the morning. I was like, see the back of that line? Those are all VIPs down there. Have a nice day. But I never saw the guy, so it's hard to say. There was a limo parked out front. But who knows? It could have been John Bon Jovi. I don't know.
So is there a line skipping policy? I've heard Obama has skipped the line.
Yeah. Obama did. He didn't ask. I think it would have been totally fine, though. I was out running some errands, and I got a call. I was like, man, you better get back here. This place is swarming with Secret Service. Like, yee! Whittle through campus. And I got there, and we ended up hanging out for a little bit and stuff. But yeah, super rad guy. They kind of swooped in and hung out and yeah, seemed super nice.
Did you sample everything? Just the brisket?
They got a lot of food. They took a lot of food back to the plane, and yeah, he bought some people lunch, hung out. There's a cool picture of I actually was walking in the side door as he was walking out with a box of meat, and opened up the door, and he was like right there. I was like, you, and he was like, you, and he put down the meat, and then we just talked for probably about like 45 minutes, and kind of held our kiddo, and just kind of, he had the backstory. He wasn't wearing an earpiece. He was pretty well-read fellow. Yeah, he might have read the story on the wall. I don't know. So you started in a trailer. That's cool. Blah, 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 blah. It's real nice.
Still an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
So, based on that kind of experience that obviously you go to Franklin, it's the tailgate thing, what's the longest that you have waited in line personally for any food?
Ooh. I don't do lines. No. Totally kidding. I'm totally kidding. That'd be pretty weird. I probably like an hour, I guess. I don't know. I've waited at Pecan Lodge for a while. That was probably only about 45 minutes, I guess. I don't know. I don't know that I've really stood in line for, not for the cronut.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think my longest...
But if there was food and there was a line and I wanted that food, I certainly wouldn't complain about standing in line.
Is Franklin barbecue that food?
I'm pretty tired of eating barbecue. I'm just not that into it.
Well, that actually brings me to the next question. So, okay, you've got perfect brisket. What's your favorite drink to pair with brisket?
It depends on the day. It could just be a super ice cold, unsweetened iced tea. That's pretty good. But probably, so there are two types of barbecue. If it's a beverage to go with an entire tray of barbecue, if it was our barbecue, it would be a Pilsner. It would be like a Live Oak Pils or like a Pearl Snap or something like that. Clean, crispy, super sharp beer, not too heavy on the hops. But really, if I'm somewhere else and I'm just doing brisket or something really, really rich, for some strange reason, I really like a canned Dr. Pepper.
Oh. Dr. Pepper?
Just warmed up a little bit. Maybe 55-degree range. Not straight out of the fridge. Because the flavors get a little different when they get warmed up.
Is that the same thing with barbecue or just with Dr. Pepper?
Just with Dr. Pepper.
Just with Dr. Pepper.
Don't try it with beer.
Okay, so best restaurant in Austin, not named Franklin Barbecue.
Oh, Uchiko for sure.
Uchiko?
Yeah, baby faves.
What's the go-to meal there?
12 of everything.
Is that the go-to meal at Franklin Barbecue, or is that a prescription for meat sweats?
A little bit of both, actually. If you're a Franklin Barbecue, of course the brisket, but really the turkey's kind of my favorite thing. It's kind of a sleeper. But it would be weird if you stood in line and didn't get everything.
Yeah.
You're like, just give me a chopped beef sandwich. I gotta go.
You have people that do that though, right?
I've had a few people try to order chopped beef sandwiches. They're just like, I don't know, give me a sandwich. I'm like, nah, here's 6 pounds. Have a nice day. Hope it's worth it.
So you
also had a lady try to order fried chicken once.
what'd you say to her?
I don't remember. I was actually cutting that day for lunch. I think I set down the knife. I was like, let's talk for a minute. Let's have a powwow. Let's riff. I was like, do you know where you are? He's like, I don't know. I was just hanging out. I was like, it's fine, but how hungry are you? And then I just made her food, but it's like, no chicken nuggets for you.
And she liked it better than the chicken nuggets.
I never followed up.
Yeah, well.
I think I was kind of hoping that she would just leave.
What's your favorite non-Texas style barbecue?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Nobody ever asked me that. Thanks. Whole hogs in one of the Carolinas.
Okay.
Yeah, I like 2 favorite bites would be Hemingway, South Carolina, Rodney Scott. Man, that guy can cook a whole hog. And then a fellow named Sam Jones cooks some really, really amazing hog. That's actually when you think of like some of the best bites you've ever had of any food, where you just kind of close your eyes like, oh man, I never want to forget this. Crackling from Sam Jones is one of those bites. Straight off the pig at something that we were cooking together at. And yeah, that guy's pretty great. His restaurant is in Aden, North Carolina, and then now he has a place in, I want to say Charleston maybe, but he just opened up a new place. But anyway, yeah, whole hogs in one of the Carolinas.
Let's write that one down. What about, so with barbecue sauce, so your brisket with barbecue sauce or without barbecue sauce?
I would say try it without, but I'm not opposed to dipping a little on the side.
Yeah.
Just, don't dump it all over. Somebody worked real hard on that. Just check it out first before you squirt a bunch of sauce on there.
Last formal question we've got. So if you weren't doing barbecue, what other job would you be doing? I know you kind of talked a little bit about this already.
Yeah, I think I would probably be doing the same thing that I do now. I'm pretty much a lead maintenance guy. When it comes down to it, I'm like, do some emails, fix this, order this part, fix the motor on this thing, run to the welding shop, design, mock up some stuff, get the guys working on some things. Kind of just running errands all the time. So I guess I would be doing that. But if I had to pick like something that I was just going to go to work and actually do, like cooking barbecue, I bet it would be brewing beer, roasting coffee, or something like that. And I'm really into carpentry too. So I used to do like built-in like bookcases and stuff a long, long time ago, and I really enjoyed it.
Bonus question, since you just mentioned coffee, best place for coffee in the city when you're on your way to Franklin?
Figure eight
Figure eight.
on Chacon.
So that's the end of the formal questions. If anyone has any questions, please come to the mic. Out of respect for everyone else in the audience, though, if you could try to keep it to one question, that would be awesome. Oh, perfect. Well, yeah.
I'll answer them quick.
Okay, good. Hey, first of all, thank you, Aaron, for raising the bar for barbecue in Austin. We really enjoy it. Thank you so much.
We wouldn't have done it if people didn't eat it. So
That's true. Yeah.
I blame everyone else.
So, just something on the light side. This is not a question. So, I was wondering, you have done a remarkable job of basically cooking excellent food, but your marketing has been excellent as well, right? So, the line really stands out as a hallmark of your restaurant. So, did Apple lines come first or your lines came first?
Did what?
The Apple lines, because Apple really
Oh,
perfected the line idea, right? Being able to have long lines, people waiting.
I'm not real sure. I think probably Apple, I would imagine. The line just kind of started on its own. We didn't do anything. We've never, actually, interesting note, we've never paid for any advertising. And we certainly don't. We never had a marketing plan. We're just like, we're just doing what we do and keep it simple. But I think the line just kind of started on its own and just been getting bigger and bigger. And I think it started off, the first time that we ever had a line was when we were in the trailer and I looked out. It was about a month after we opened, and there were about 5 people out there before we opened. And I used to slide this big chain link fence open, and I was like, "Wow, man, what are these people doing out here? What are they waiting for? Like, is it barbecue? That's weird." And I think people just like, "Oh God, we had so much fun drinking beer and hanging out with friends and stuff," that it's just kind of snowballed from there. So I don't know.
So
I think
organically it grew from that one register kind of a thing.
Yeah. That one guy told 2 people.
Okay. So again, back on not a question yet. So I've always wondered how come we run out of the ribs all the time?
We actually usually finish on ribs most of the time. We used to run out of ribs real early because we couldn't fit ribs only. So if you look at the footprint of a brisket, and it's about yay big on a cooker, but you can feed about 20 people. If you look at a rack of ribs, it takes up just a little bit more room because it's just flat and wide, and one guy could eat a whole rack of ribs if he was really hungry.
Right.
So it's just you only have so much room for ribs, and you only get 10 bones out of a rack.
Okay, so that's why other places also run out of it quick, right?
Yeah,
Not you
but
anymore.
now I think these days, so we cook. We built a few years ago. I built another cooker, and it's just for ribs. And it's a big rotisserie, and it fits 72 racks.
Oh.
And we usually run out of ribs just a few minutes before brisket. We try to time it just about right.
Okay, so now that the actual question, since it's an entrepreneur series, so my question is that What would
Actual
you?
last question.
Actual last question, yeah.
Literal.
Literal last question. And more related to the entrepreneurship, right? So if someone is going to start maybe another trailer in Austin, right, or anywhere, what would be your suggestion in how to start the trailer? You mentioned you bought it for $300, but ended up spending $12,000 on it, right?
Yeah, for barbecue or just anything?
Anything,
Um,
any food that is, right? Yeah.
I mean, first thing is have great food. Like, there's no way, you can't have a good restaurant with crappy food. It's not ever gonna work. So really just like, be really good at what you do, and I think a lot of people that try to open restaurants or trailers or anything, it's like if you don't have a lot of money, you just don't have a lot of money. But there's always a way to figure it out. There's always a way to learn how to do this. Like, I needed a barbecue pit, so I learned how to weld. Like kind of get into it cheap, and then, no trailer's gonna make that much money. You just can't cook that much, you can't get that many people through it. You're always gonna be in a weird location because it's a trailer and they're in weird locations. So yeah, I mean, keep costs super low. Like, don't run out and buy, this 25-foot brand new trailer that costs $75,000. Buy something kind of junky and maybe fix it up a little bit. Like, learn how to do some stuff. Like, don't buy everything, I guess is what I'm saying. That way when it fails, you're not out too much. But that way when it makes it, it really makes it, because it didn't really take much to get it going anyway.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I'm very frugal.
Aaron, thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Appreciate
heck
it.
yeah.
I was curious what role you think authenticity takes in some of these startups or businesses, including your own, and what other kind of restaurants or businesses around town you think stay true to their authentic roots or have.
I think that's huge. I'm glad you mentioned that. But yeah, I mean, that's like, it really, like, whatever, you got to stick to that stuff. I mean, whoever you are, whoever a restaurant is, whatever a restaurant is, like, we're not going to like Cheddar's or Applebee's or Olive Garden, like these terrible places that are just like anonymously owned by some guy at a desk. It's like, these are people. Like, we're going to a restaurant, we go to Emmer and Rye, and you talk to Tavel, you talk to Kevin, like, these are the people that created this. You go to Uchi or Uchiko, like, Tyson's in the back, he's still doing it. You go talk to him. Like, that's what you're getting at a restaurant, is like, who done it, like, what's in their heart and what does make it authentic. So I think as soon as you lose the authenticity of it, like, you've kind of lost. So, I think that really, for me, that separates a lot of stuff. I mean, that separates pretty much everything, like wherever like ethical consumerism, I guess, sort of. But like whatever you're gonna do, like restaurant-wise, yeah, I mean, it's gotta be backed up by something that means something.
Right, yeah, I agree. Is there any other businesses, restaurants, or other things around town you consider like, this is an authentic experience and something that sticks out?
A lot of things stick out. It's Austin, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I mean, there's certain like restaurants that I go to, I'm like, man, these guys are really nailing it, except for that. I mean, there's a level of like judginess, which I don't judge. Maybe just a little bit, but I keep it to myself. But then there's like how authentic they are. So I mean, somebody can have a lot of passion and still kind of miss it a little bit. So I think I kind of would consider those two separate. So yeah, no names.
Thanks, appreciate it.
During your talk, you were talking about your relationship you've got with the meat suppliers and how you consume virtually their whole supply. And it seems like that's one of your competitive advantages that you've got, is locking down this high quality beef and no one else can get it. So during this downturn, where they've gone from giving everything they've got now to now
It's a real
there's
pickle,
nothing,
I tell you.
how are you handling it? Because it seems like that's pretty critical.
So we're harvesting. So we usually run, like it's Franklin time at the harvest plant. And has anybody ever seen the documentary about Temple Grandin that was on HBO, I think? So look her up. She's pretty rad, Temple Grandin. Anyway, so that's where our meat comes from, is the place that was in that documentary. So it's pretty small on the grand scale of, it's not like a big commodity place. It's not IBP or Swift or any of that stuff. So it's pretty small. So we can kind of back off on the numbers, and we can harvest less cows, and they can kind of say customers, where the rest of the cows go. Like we only get 2 briskets on each cow. So you've still got like strip loins, ribeyes, plates. I mean, you've got all these other cuts in there. So those things are going usually to other restaurants, but since we're probably harvesting less numbers right now because we're not taking the briskets, they're backing off on the numbers a little bit, but then they're able to pull some of those offcuts from other harvests that aren't necessarily EU or aren't necessarily like all natural stuff. So it's been pretty hard for them because nobody's going to start to use their brisket knowing that they can't consistently get it as soon as we reopen. And that's also been a problem. When we had the fire, I was sitting on 604 cases of brisket. That's a lot. That's about $60,000 worth of raw meat. And so I was like, well, how do I get rid of this? Like, it's going to rot if it sits here. But nobody, I found a couple people that could buy it and be like, yeah, we'll take, this and this. And, we kind of shuffled some things around a little bit, but really nobody would use that stuff because we're like, well, I'm not going to use this great stuff. And then you're going to take it away from me in a month. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of tricky. We've had some logistical problems.
Well, great, thank you.
Thanks, Aaron, for your anecdotes and your insights tonight,
And my bad jokes, I know.
and also your Harvey fundraising. Willie Nelson lyrics. Nightlife ain't no good life, but it's my life. Could you walk us through a day in your life?
Yeah, that's interesting. Right now, it's pretty boring. Do you want my normal with like when the restaurant's open, or like what I'm doing like right now? Normal. I usually wake up about 5:30. I don't really cook much anymore, so that's kind of weird. Because that's kind of what got me into this mess. But now I have to run a restaurant instead. So I usually wake up about 5:30, jump out of bed, brush my teeth, get in the truck, run straight to work, pull 2 double espressos back to back. So I walk in. I'm not going to get too detailed on this, but anyway. So I walk in, say hi to Andy or Matt or whoever's cooking ribs. I'm like, hey, how's it going? Check in on stuff. They're usually about to start wrapping ribs, so that's kind of why I show up at that time, because it's a good time to see the pork ribs before they get wrapped, and I can see the color. I can tell how their fires were. Turkeys went on an hour before that. So I kind of check out on everybody. The prep guys get there at 6. One guy gets there at 6. 3 guys get there at 6:30, and they just start, rubbing brisket for the next day. So get there, have my coffee, and I kind of make the rounds and check in on everybody. How's this looking? How's this looking? And at 6:30, the guy up front starts going through the brisket that's already cooked, that got put up into the warmers throughout the night. So maybe about 5 in the morning, 5:30, the last couple briskets are sliding into warmers. And he starts going through them because since we have a line that's already there before we actually open, we have to know exactly what we're going to be able to sell. That's kind of the thing about barbecue. When it runs out, and it might have run out because it wasn't very good. Usually not the case for anyone, because you're like, man, we cooked it, we got to sell it. But 'tis the case with us. If it wasn't very good, we're not going to sell it. It goes right in the trash, or we'll donate it to something. So that guy gets there because he has to figure out how much meat, or specifically how much brisket. We know what our yield's going to be on the turkeys and the butts and all that stuff, because it's way less complex than a brisket. But anyway, so he goes through the numbers, makes some some notes on how the cook went. Are they fatty? Are they tender? Are they dry? Are the edges kind of crispy? Are they big? Are they little? Are they thick? Are they thin? Are the points big? Are the flats big? Vice versa. All these things that factor into how much food we're really going to have to sell. So I check in with him. I look at some briskets. I kind of drink my coffee over the counter while he's going through them. Talk about some stuff. Make some notes. Go talk to the cooks. I'll make notes of like, all right, when this guy shows up later, I need to talk to him about this or whatever. So I'm always kind of like troubleshooting all the food that happens. At that point, I'm usually going to my office, maybe have another coffee. I try to get on some emails. I drink espresso because I really like espresso. It's not because I'm just tired all the time. Oh, jeez. I'm not. I sleep fine. But anyway, so do some emails. Everybody starts showing up about 10. We really start, pre-orders start going out about 10. I'll go in there, I'll see what stuff looks like as it's getting cut out of the trailer. blah, 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 do some more emails. We probably get about 150 emails a day, and I'm not into computers. I hate emails. So I answer the ones that I really, on my personal email, the ones that I really have to get to. Fart around in the office, do menu stuff. I'm doing events. I have to work on logistics, travel. I do all the design stuff for the welding shop, so I'm ordering stuff, designing cookers, talking to whoever. Depending on what's going on, a lot of office stuff, a lot of hot luck stuff. That's a food festival that we started last year. So I do a lot of that stuff. Not as much as other people, but still a lot for me. So anyway, about 11 o'clock, we open the doors. About half the time I open the door at 10:59 on the dot to open the restaurant. Do lunch, probably about 12:30. Lunch is going pretty good, and I'm going to split off and go run some errands. So I'll do that till probably about 3 or 4. About that time, maybe I've gone to the welding shop, maybe I've done to do whatever. Usually end up back at the restaurant, check in, see how the rest of lunch went, work on work stuff, and then hopefully around that time, I pull out my grandpa beer. About 4 in the afternoon, crack up with a cold one, and finish up some emails and stuff, and usually go home and eat dinner, which is great now that we have so many people cooking because I actually get to go home. I used to not go home. I used to just finish lunch, start cooking, work lunch, start cooking, back and forth, back and forth. So back in the day, having a 70-hour workday was not rare. So I got it pretty good these days. That was long-winded, I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Okay. So I have a small business of my own. It's been growing a lot. I'm always curious, how did you finance the growth of your business over 8 years? Because I know you've probably had to make some decisions about when you're going to buy new stuff, when you're expanding space,
Yeah.
hiring more people. What's your advice?
Good one. If you don't got it, don't spend it. From a guy that opened a trailer with 28 cents in the bank, that first day's food paid for the next day's food. That day's food paid for the next day's food. And we still do that. We've never owed 1 penny to anyone. Everything we have, we bought outright.
Yeah.
We, no debt or anything. So yeah, I'm pretty against borrowing money.
Yeah.
If we buy a building, then we save up for it and we pay cash for it. I'm not into, I don't want anybody you're like, oh, you owe me this. I don't want the pressure of having to feel like I have to pay people back. If we need equipment, we buy it. If we don't have the money, we save for it. So yeah, that's pretty much my advice.
Follow-up
That's a
question.
real simpleton way to look at it, but it, and it doesn't always work that way. I mean, if you're going to open a restaurant that's going to cost, $2 million to open, I mean, who's got $2 million just sitting around? Not very many people.
No.
So it's likely that you will have to, but that's also why we chose to start in a trailer, is so we could cash flow everything as we needed it, and, just kind of when the time was right and just let it happen real organically.
My follow-up question is, what's the biggest mistake you made with your business in the last 8 years?
Using that particle board for those shelves really ticked me off. We have been really, really lucky, but we're also really, really careful. I may look young and vibrant, but I assure you, I am 80 plus years old on the inside. So we're pretty careful. I think, I really can't think of too many mistakes. I mean, we've kind of just real dumb stuff I shouldn't have hired that guy. He was kind of a jerk. But nothing major. We've been super lucky.
So we got time for about 2 more questions, so we'll do one here and then one here.
Yeah, so one thing you're known for is kind of giving away some of the secrets. So making videos, having the PBS show.
Unicorn blood.
Yeah, and mediocre amateurs like me really appreciate that we can produce competent beef ribs on Sundays now. So thanks a lot
Sweet.
for that. I see a lot of people talking about how that's kind of rare. Why would you give away these secrets if there's the huge line? So I'm kind of wondering if you could share some of your thought process and maybe extrapolate to other people who might be nervous.
It probably stems from the fact that I just like to talk. If somebody asks me a question, I'm like, oh yeah, it's blah 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 blah. I'm not into hiding stuff necessarily. But so barbecue specifically, over the years has always been one of those things like, oh, what's in that sauce? What's in that sauce? I ain't telling you what I'm putting on my brisket, you know, and it's like always been super secretive and no barbecue, like kind of the old way of looking at things like, oh, everybody's a competitor. It's like, there's no competition, man. If everybody's better, then we're all better. And who cares? Like, there are so many people in this world that are going to eat food that if I give away all of our secrets and put videos online and do a show and write a book telling exactly what we do, we're still going to be busy. It doesn't, you know, it's not like I'm trying to monopolize like people's appetites or anything. You know, so, but it makes everybody better. And I think it's cool. You know, I didn't learn anything from anyone. Everything that I figured out on my own in a backyard or like at the restaurant or maybe like wherever, but, you know, or got inspiration from various places and stuff. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Not that I want everybody to take a shortcut and be like, oh man, I'm great to open up this restaurant. But, you know, if you can make super awesome ribs at home, man, I think that's awesome. Yep.
So a lot of businesses owe some of their success to strong partnerships, and it sounds like you have a good one on your supply. Not that you need any more demand, you've got a ton, but have you considered any collaborations with other chefs around town or around the country?
Yeah, I do some stuff for fun. I try to keep Franklin Barbecue completely independent, completely separate from anything else. You know, from food festival, from this, for like book stuff, like it's completely separate. But yeah, like you know, here in the next year, I may or may not be opening up what might be a restaurant with someone else that I think is awesome. So yeah, I mean, at this point, it's like, man, that sounds like fun. I totally want to do that. Like, I can get giddy about other stuff. Like, I was really giddy about barbecue 10 years ago, and I was able to do something really amazing with it, and just beyond anyone's expectations, including ours. But yeah, if something's like really exciting, like building barbecue pits, I mean, that's not a collaboration necessarily, but like I can kind of get excited about other things and learn how to do other things better. You know, I can learn how to do different types of food better. You know, I do collaboration dinners with people. We make a beer with Jester King. I've done a lot of collaborative beers with various brewers around the country. So yeah, I mean, I've cooked dinners with other chefs, and I do a festival up in Portland every year, and I have a barbecue up there, and kind of, we always do like, you know, barbecue chocolate or like random beers and do like collaborative stuff for that. So yeah, sometimes I do. I do a dinner up in Chicago, July 4th weekend also, where we do some fun stuff with local restaurants there too. So yeah, but not like, you know, not necessarily like opening up another restaurant with another restaurant guy, but you never know.
Thanks everyone for coming out. There's a reception outside, so that'll be open for about the next hour. Aaron will stick around for a little bit, but now I want to thank you again for coming out, so I'll give Aaron a big round of applause.
Yeah, thanks for having me.